The 805 Focus is brought to you in part by Nonprofit Connect. Nonprofit Connect provides superior leadership tools and resources so nonprofit leaders and board members can make valuable decisions to move their organization forward to a sustainable and vibrant future. More information on services online at nonprofitconnect.org.
Welcome to 805 Focus. I'm Dr. Cinder Sinclair with Nonprofit Connect, and we will be bringing you the latest on your favorite nonprofits. So get ready to be inspired. Our special guest today is Gina Carvalho, and Gina is the co-founder of Santa Barbara Response Network. Welcome, Gina.
Thank you, Cinder. It's very nice to be here with you
today.
today.
I'm so glad you're here.
Oh, me too.
And I know that the Response Network has been really busy. Lots of projects, lots of good, important work lately. And so I'm hoping you'll tell us about that.
Yeah, and I was really pleased to be invited because it has been. Since COVID, we had to really pivot our responses.
Yes.
Because
oh gosh.
I'm sure every nonprofit you've talked to has mentioned this.
Yes.
But we are a direct response network. So when there's a trauma or a violent incident or a suicide, families or agencies will call us and say, please, can you come out with your volunteers and help us? Well, with COVID, we had to think about how are we going to keep the mental health focus in our community alive and active. So we used to, and still do, provide what we call compassion centers, which are safe spaces where people could come and talk and process grief and trauma. And we call them compassion centers. So we took them online, and we did them on Facebook Live.
Oh, wow.
And we started the day of shutdown. I got together with my team, and I'm not as versed on the internet as some, we've come into this at this point in life, but I knew that we could do something online. We went right into Facebook Live in English and Spanish, and we're posting messages where people can get help, what they might be looking for in terms of a loved one they're worried about or themselves. And since then, we've done over 250 Facebook Live compassion centers in English and Spanish.
Wow, since the COVID
we're over 30,000 people or 36,000 people have viewed our Facebook Live posts. And what we did is every week, twice, English and Spanish, we would talk to people about mental health issues. We'd have people from the community in, open it up, and then also have all the, like you do, have the nonprofit and mental health agencies talk about their work and how can people get a hold of us when the domestic violence went up and everything. So that was just one thing that we did.
So how does a person identify your Facebook page?
Well,
is it
just Santa Barbara Response Network, but then we just started sending it out through all our volunteers. We tried to share it as much as we could with the people in our volunteers shared it, and we would do email announcements. Through all the nonprofits I knew, I would send an announcement in English and Spanish and say, tune in, we're going to be talking about self-care. We're going to be talking about domestic violence.
So if a person finds your Facebook page and then likes it,
they get
then they are going to get it automatically.
And they can automatically link in there. That's right.
That's
so they go to our
idea.
Facebook, Santa Barbara Response Network, and also our website. And that was one thing that we did that I'm really proud of.
Yes.
Because we wanted to still be in the community. And we wanted people to know their mental health was going to be impacted and that was really important.
Yeah.
And self-care, constant messages of self-care. Are you walking? Are you drinking enough liquid? Are you taking time to center yourself? So we shifted from psychological first aid and including self-care.
So now this is something, this Facebook thing you can take forward. I mean,
oh, it's still going on.
Definitely lemonade out of lemons.
Absolutely. And then we just wanted to keep mental health just up front. It's okay to talk about it. And then our number all the time is we have a 24-hour number. People can call in English and Spanish.
Oh, right.
So
that's
then,
good.
And we can connect them to services.
And they can find that on your website.
Absolutely, everything. And also one thing that we did a lot more of was training people in psychological first aid.
Oh.
So the Santa Barbara Response Network, all our volunteers are trained in psychological first aid. It's an evidence-based trauma response protocol. It's very simple, very basic. It's not therapy, so anybody can be trained in it.
So give me an example of what that means. I mean,
There's very easy. There are basically 8 core actions, as we call them, in psychological first aid. The first one is contact and engagement. So you never go up to a person without asking permission to talk to them, even if they've called you out. Introducing yourself. It's almost like the fundamentals of effective communication.
Oh,
so you say, hi, I'm Gina. I'm with the Santa Barbara Response Network, and I know you've been through some recent loss, and I'm here to help in any way I can. So, number 1. Number 2, you make sure they're safe. So even though you're called out, and we are called out by first responders, by schools, we want to make sure we're in a safe environment, 360-degree view. Are we safe here? Do you feel safe? We establish safety. We bring down the anxiety. We're trained in just being able to calm and stabilize. The third core action is stabilization. By breathing, walking, let's just take a breath right now. And then we can go on and gather information about needs. What do you need? What would be helpful to you right now? How can I assist you? Then connecting with supportive services. So we don't have clients. They don't stay with us as patients or clients. We refer them on.
Oh, okay.
So we say, I'm going to call, the family services agency for you, try to find a counselor, or Hospice of Santa Barbara. So that's what we do. We're basically like a good neighbor.
That is great,
and
but a well-trained good neighbor.
Yeah, we've trained hundreds of people in Santa Barbara in English and Spanish, hundreds.
So you use a lot of volunteers?
Yes, we use it. So if people want to volunteer, please go on our website, and we have trainings going on regularly. We have one in November, but we have them all the time. And it's free, and if you make a donation, that's helpful, of course, to keep our work, but we don't turn anyone away. Once you're trained, then we do a call out and say, we've had an incident, would you like to respond? And at first, you shadow a trained responder.
Oh, that's a smart idea.
And you always go in pairs or teams. You never go alone.
Oh.
That's very important for self-care of our responders. And also, you're always invited. You never show up. So even though you're a trained person, and there was an incident and you heard about it, you don't show up and say, here, I'm with the Santa Barbara, and I'm because we have to be invited.
Here to save the day.
I'm here to say, no, we have no say. We are invited, and then we touch base with the person who invited us. We get a debrief of what's gone on.
That is so
And the
important.
most important thing, I think, is the debriefs after we respond. So we take care of our volunteers. We don't want people to be in situations where they feel overwhelmed.
Right. So if somebody's watching this and they're saying, gosh, that sounds like something I might want to do, but I don't have any background in psychology. I wonder if they'd really want me.
No, we want you. We have high school students, terrific, trained. We have retired people. We have some counselors, but mostly it's just everyday people who want to be able to help. So they can get the training. It's done on Zoom right now.
Oh, that's good.
So you can get your basic psychological first aid training and be involved in the community if there's any way. Now we do it, of course, with safe distancing, but we also talk to a lot of people on the phone. A lot of people call, and they need services.
So about how long does the training take?
We do it, it's basically 3 to 4 hours, so it's pretty short. You get the basics, and then we bring people back and do refreshers and role plays. So now we can do it in breakout rooms. So it's a half a day, and you get an opportunity to practice, and we're always offering them. So.
That is just fabulous.
Yeah.
And so Santa Barbara Response Network is a 501c3.
Yes, we are.
And so you accept donations that are
Absolutely.
tax deductible to
Yes.
the donor.
Yes.
So they can go on your website perhaps.
Yeah, sbresponsenetwork.org.
.org,
Yeah.
okay. And we have a donate button?
We have it right there. We're really proud someone donated our new beautiful website to us. We had a very basic website, and one of our volunteers, trained volunteers, wanted to help us and spent hours. And so please visit it. It's got a lot of very helpful information, English and Spanish. We connect to Mi Vida, Mi Voz, which during COVID, the other thing that I found so beautiful was that I was part of at least 4 or 5 collective task forces and mental health agencies that got together, and we coordinated efforts.
That's so important.
Have you found that, Cinder? Our community is
Yes.
a collaborative.
Yeah. So clearly you collaborate with a lot of different organizations and groups.
Absolutely. From the Indigenous Task Force, Migrant Indigenous Task Force, the community providers for youth, community engagement team, they're all the providers that attend to youth needs. Also the school board, I'm very involved in things there. The community engagement team, it's a group of about 40 mental health agencies headed by Behavioral Wellness. And we started after the debris flow. I was one of the original people with Be Well.
Yes.
And so I have that collective, and also the Mental Health Advisory Task Force. I mean, there's so many groups, and we all support each other. And
that's good. So there's a continuity.
There's a
in the
continuity
coming together.
of care. And also I can always call someone up and say, you know, I've got a kid at City College I'm worried about. And that's why it's a network, the Santa Barbara Response Network.
Yeah.
It's almost like having a safety net.
Right.
And I'm really proud of what we do.
Good. So when a person goes to your website, they can also make their financial donation, and they can find out about being a volunteer,
Absolutely.
about
the training, events that are coming up in October. You know, we have many events all the time, but there's a lot of mental health events that we're involved with.
Okay.
Places we're speaking, and places people can find out more about a film screening we might be doing, something like that. We're always active in education on mental health as well. So yes, if they go on our site, they'll get a lot of info.
That is wonderful. So I bet you have a story or two you could share with us.
I do. And you know, I was asked to, I'm going to be speaking at the Partnerships for Excellence.
Oh,
about
good
our
for
work.
you.
Yeah. And they asked me about a story, and I thought of one, and I thought I'd share it. It's close to my heart.
Good.
But we responded after the debris flow, and you know, we lost some people, and we lost some children that died during the bleed.
How sad that was.
So the Santa Barbara Response Network responded to all of the locations with our volunteers, and we weren't alone. Behavioral Wellness is there and many others. But we set up compassion centers, like I said, safe space where children could come, teachers. So we set it up at Franklin School. They had lost a little boy, and we set it up in the library. We had a team there. And the children knew, the teachers announced it and said, you can come to the library if you need a timeout or you need a place to go. And they came, and many children. Now with children we use art and physical expression, because they're not going to sit and tell their feelings, but they'll paint and draw and everything. So we had all
really
kinds of art supplies, and of course the teachers provided everything, and they just kept coming. And then eventually, organically, they started to express their feelings. They wrote letters to the little boy, but then they created a game that they named his name, and they started all doing it together. And then in the garden, there was a garden in the back, they did a ceremony. This was all self-motivated. If you let the person go through their process, they find a way to deal with the grief and the loss.
Yeah.
and they sat in a circle, and they each said one thing that they would miss. And they collected things from the garden, and they made a little like a shrine, like garden, and they named it after him and asked the principal if they could name that garden in his honor. These are 6, 7, 8-year-olds.
Oh, golly.
And there was so much transformative energy, but we have to honor that people have their way of processing grief, tremendous trauma and grief.
Yes.
And what we did with our volunteers, we just allowed. We sat there, we held the space, and we came over 2 weeks. We were there, we had shifts.
Oh.
And the children would say, I said, why are you coming? Because this is a place I can come and have my feelings.
Oh, how sweet.
So they left the classroom. We can have our feelings. And they would sit and cry. Some would just sit by themselves. Some would, they just...
Oh, my
But
gosh.
That's what happens. That's what a safe space for containing emotion.
How precious.
And we've done these all over.
And you are co-founder of this organization.
Yes, when we started, we just did the psychological first aid, but you have to be creative and innovative. So the Compassion Centers were set up with our then executive director, Dr. Gil Reyes, and we responded to the Isla Vista shootings.
Oh.
And it was so big that we knew we had to create safe spaces on campus. So we created these centers, and we said, let's call them Compassion Centers. And then we had t-shirts that said that, and we had Compassion Patrol. And we walked through Isla Vista, and people would just say, talk to me. We'd walk through, and people would just talk. So we had to find innovative ways to respond and to be present. And no response it's no cookie cutter.
Yeah.
If you have a shooting, like we had some deaths, Liberty Street or wherever, we have to think about how are we going to reach those families, that neighborhood. It's not the same if you go to Montecito or the mudslides or Isla Vista or a school.
That's great.
So
you tailor it to
You tailor it. You really assess
individual.
it. That's why you do a sort of reconnaissance or evaluation of the situation and try to give the most effective response.
So that's when the organization started,
No, before then. We started 11 years ago when there was a
really?
rash of suicides in the Latino community. We had young men, gang-related at that time. There were several of them in a row, and the community didn't know what to do. And I work also at the Glendon Association, another mental health nonprofit. And we got together with the school board, probation, behavioral wellness, and brought in Dr. Robert Macy, who was one of the co-founders of Psychological First Aid, and he said this will be very effective to stop the contagion. So we did that. It was effective in the Latino community because, we had to be respectful of that community and how to access the families. And since then, we've been very involved in a lot of responses in our Spanish-speaking community, and they trust us.
Yeah, because you have their trust now.
Yeah, so we did that, and then after that, we thought, let's keep this little organization going, and it's been 11 years. And we became a 501c3 a few years back, and we're still here responding.
That is so great.
It's a beautiful model, because
It sure is.
it's grassroots, completely grassroots. We're mobile. We don't even have an office, really. Just a phone. And
Are you aware of any other communities or
I heard
cities
of,
that have this?
I looked around, and I know there's one small organization in LA where the responders go out with police to incidents, and I heard of one in San Francisco, but nothing like this. I think we're so unique.
Yes.
That I don't know of another response network that's just volunteers trained to go out and help their friends in the community.
Yeah. And it really grew organically over those 11 years.
It grew organically. And also we're offering, even if people don't want to respond and just want to be trained, they're going to have tools to be able to respond to their own children.
Yeah.
How to be with your own kid who's struggling.
Yeah.
Or partner.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
So Gina, we have about a minute left. Is there
Okay.
anything else that you'd like the audience to know about the Response Network?
I would like to say that I encourage them to go to our website because we're doing so many presentations and talks, but I encourage them to get involved.
Oh, that's good.
I think that everyone, you know, when we had the pandemic and like we had the fires, we responded, and the mudslides, we got a lot of calls. How can I help? How can I help? People want...
That's encouraging.
They want to help, and we can give them an opportunity to be able to be present with others that are hurting. And I think there's such a good feeling when you give back.
Yeah.
The idea of the help, you know, I'm able to make an impact, I can help, is so empowering. And it takes us out of our own suffering.
Boy, isn't that the truth? That is...
The fact that you can help a family or a person hurting takes you out of yourself.
Yeah.
As people say to me, how can you do that kind of work? It's so painful, you're in like death. But you know, when I'm there and I'm making that connection, I feel so present and alive and so grateful that I'm able to help.
Well, you are a blessing, my dear.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for all of the good, important, vital work that you're doing that touches the lives of so many people in a powerful way.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having this show.
And thank you for joining us on 805 Focus, and we'll see you next time.